The COVID-19 pandemic has severely disrupted business aviation, not just at an operational level, but perhaps more fundamentally in terms of possible changes longer term to supply and demand. Pre-owned aircraft brokers like Jetcraft are at the forefront of this situation. They've had to deal with the fallout from previous crises too.
I think if you look at our business aviation cycles altogether, we anticipated the downturn. We didn't know when, we didn't know what would ultimately cause it. But business jet sales are naturally cyclical. So we forecasted a downturn in our last 5-year new and pre-owned market forecast specifically, certainly not to this extent.
Jetcraft and their rivals have been working hard to keep the trade in airplanes flowing. And they're certainly having to earn their commissions at the moment. Having a global presence has made a difference for some.
Jetcraft has remained open for business carefully, as has our industry. And our industry has been able to transact business, certainly with lots of obstacles, primarily logistical, and also having to even be careful with sanitizing documents that get filed in closings or managing new closing locations and logistics, et cetera. There's a number of examples I can offer, but that has been the biggest issue. And in the event you have lenders involved, which call into play more stakeholders in the deal, lenders are understandably being cautious. So cash buyers do add some level of simplification in deals and probably have an advantage when it comes to transactions. We have had closing examples where we've planned a closing in one location, realize we can't actually close there because the crew will be quarantined for 14 days if we do. So we have to jump through lots of hoops to come up with new solutions. So I would say a high level of experience in deal creativity and specifically logistics is needed right now.
Trying to anticipate the next twists and turns in this crisis is far from straightforward. But the broker perspective generally remains a glass half full viewpoint.
I can say with confidence this crisis will be very different than our previous one. Our market right now has actually been behaving quite responsibly. And if you take a look at current owners of aircraft that are very unlikely to utilize the airlines anytime soon, a strong majority of them are absolutely holding on to their airplanes and in a little bit of the wait and see mode. During the 08-09 crisis, over 20% of our available supply of jets was for sale in the downturn. And if you take a look at Amstat statistics right now, 9.8% of the world fleet was for sale pre-virus. And we're currently at 10.3%, a modest 0.5% increase in supply, which is a still relatively low end, even in normal circumstances. So in terms of the recovery, the global economy was strong before this pandemic, and the institutional problems that caused the 08-09 crisis really aren't an issue going into this one. So we are expecting a relatively good bounce, particularly once a vaccine is found and business is able to travel again more freely.
Some go so far as to see the recovery from COVID-19 as a historic opportunity for business aviation to grow its customer base.
We are anticipating a new entrant into the marketplace or new users of business aviation. The new users of business aviation, however, are going to enter most likely at a charter or a fractional ownership level or a jet card arrangement and so forth, which is why those programs are so important for our industry in general. They're the seed that plants and grows for decades in terms of business aircraft use. In this crisis, we're not starting from the balloon economy that burst in 2008. Manufacturer production levels far better match demand than they did at that time. And we don't have extraordinary lead times that create inflated, artificially high pre-owned aircraft prices. Most importantly, the substance and virtues of business aviation in this circumstance have not been challenged, very unlike 2008. So the whole future of what we're talking about is not being challenged right now. So when you talk pricing and general levels of business acceptance, that's the core of what we have to make sure the industry realizes. The airlines will take a very long time to recover because the people with the capabilities of using business aviation travel right now, probably very unlikely to climb in a tube with 300 of their closest friends right now.
But buyers and sellers are surely nervous about how market conditions will unfold. No one wants to be making a bad deal at exactly the wrong time. So what are the brokers telling their clients?
If we're representing a seller, in this case, specifically right now, if they can be patient and wait before we bring an airplane to market, frankly speaking, I would advise them to be patient, mostly because a lot of the buyers are taking a bit of a wait and see mode. And so let's match the supply with the demand when the demand is ready. The demand will be ready in the relatively near distant future. So if our sellers do have the ability to be patient, we ask them to be patient and say, let's wait a little bit, get beyond this, and then we'll make a change. As buyers are concerned, there's great values out there. There was before the pandemic, and there are even better values now with the pandemic because there still is a relatively balanced and array of supply and various aircraft types. In the US in particular, we have extensive tax incentives and net operating loss benefits, low interest rates, young inventory. What's not to like? There are people buying right now. The market isn't paralyzed by any sense of the word. It's far slower than it was, but there absolutely are buyers. And what we're seeing it's predominantly made up of ultra high net worth individuals who are able to make those decisions on a more efficient basis than a big corporate can.
And there's no denying the economic damage caused by the pandemic. Even if it remains true that for those able to hold their nerve, there is a case for sticking with the exceptional benefits that private aviation can deliver.
Some owners have been so financially hit where they have to rationalize sale of the aircraft, and that's unfortunate, right? But those who have been hit but still realize that they're very unlikely to utilize a commercial transportation solution anytime soon are realizing that if ever they're going to buy a business jet, now's the time. And we also are taking the buyer's advice. The buyers out there, these ultra high net worth individuals, are telling us there's got to be some level of normalcy forthcoming or some level of opportunity forthcoming, or they wouldn't be buying airplanes. So we get the benefit of that level of intellect and that level of foresight from some of the world's financial leaders. The major casualty in aviation is going to be the airlines. The collapse of regionals, consolidation of others, massive retirements of commercial aircraft is sad to see. And I'm a big user of commercial aviation myself, so it's only going to complicate our world in being able to transact business logistically for those of us who still use commercial aviation. That, in a sad way, makes business aviation a necessity for fulfilling those gaps and ensuring investment opportunities for businesses to travel amongst their homes. It's going to add to the overall value of business aviation in the long term. We see the private jet charter companies being the first to benefit. And then I think you'll see it stair step, as I mentioned, into charter fractional jet cards and then on up into full aircraft ownership. So I don't think it's going to turn over overnight. I am predicting an extraordinarily busy fourth quarter.
Thanks for watching this AIN video. Please like, subscribe, and share it if you've enjoyed it. Also, visit AINonline.com for all the latest on the aviation industry.